Okay, so today's video I am going to be talking about just different questions that you guys have asked me. I have a lot of different variety of questions that people have been asking me about the Catholic faith, about pregnancy, about NFP, about relationship, just a whole bunch of things. So I think I'm going to try to cut this into 2 videos so that if you're more interested in one or the other, then you can just watch whatever video you'd like. Or if you want to watch all of them, that would be awesome too. First of all, a lot of people have asked me how I'm doing with my pregnancy. I am 9 weeks pregnant and I am doing good. Like, I have morning sickness still, and some days are better than others. It's just kind of crazy. I don't know what triggers certain things. Like, I get super tired just out of nowhere. I have great days and I have just horrible days. So it's really bizarre. It's all over the place. Today's a great day, so that is why I'm doing a video. But let's get into the other questions because there's a lot of really, really great questions in here. How do you not lose faith while struggling with infertility? I think I want to do a whole video on infertility because it was such a painful part of my life, and I know for me it was only 2 years, and I know for some people it's much longer, and for some people it's much shorter, but it's still like as intense, you know, for them. That it is very painful for a lot of people. I know it was for me. So how did I not lose faith? I had nowhere else to go. Like, there was nothing else that filled my tank like God. And so it came down to I just had to trust him. And it was hard because every cycle that I had, I would cry. Like, I knew I wasn't pregnant and I would cry. And it was so painful because I already at that age, I got married when I was 30, and I just felt like I was too old. Like, maybe my fertility years had passed, you know, and it was just so hard because that was like my ultimate. Like, I always wanted to get married and have like a million babies. So so that was very painful. I think I'm gonna do a whole video on this, but for me, I had nowhere else to go. I knew nothing else would fulfill me than the truth, than God, and I had to trust that he had a plan, and that, you know, that's pretty much what it came down to. Doesn't mean I didn't get sad. It didn't mean that it wasn't a struggle, but I just had to trust that he had a plan for me. And if children were not a part of that, then he had another plan for me. And it was hard because I didn't have any other things going on in my life. Like, I was in a new place with a new location. Like, I had no other passions, like, sadly, besides the Catholic Church and loving my husband. But I didn't have any friends around. It was very lonely. It was kind of like the dark night of the soul for me in a lot of ways. And so, you know, those times that we struggle so much with things that we can't change, I think are probably the times where that we're the closest with Christ on the cross, you know, and we can offer up those sacrifices, those pains that are deep within our heart for other people and for saving the souls of other people, the souls in purgatory, all these things. Like, we should not waste that suffering because that is a deep suffering, probably deeper than most people will ever know in their lifetime. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like, for me, I had nowhere else to go. Honestly, I didn't, like, some people turn to drugs, some people turn to the world of shopping, or, you know, alcohol or whatever. I had nothing. Like, God was my only passion, thankfully, but I knew that I had nothing else but to rely on him. Okay, so the next one is very similar. It asks about my infertility journey and how it affected my faith. Did it affect it? And it honestly just made me rely on God more, kind of like what I said before. So yeah, a lot of infertility questions. So I will do a video on that. But the main thing that I've heard is that a lot of people don't have enough progesterone. So I would look into that. I want to talk about that in my video, but if you are struggling right now, they have quite a few Catholic places that will help you, like really narrow down like every single level, and they take tons of tests and all of that. I will link it below if I can find some. So I know like it's such a painful part of for women sometimes, and men. So yeah, so I will put that down below. Does your NFP method work when breastfeeding, and how? Currently, I am breastfeeding my almost 5-month-old. No, it does not. I will definitely do a video about my NFP. I have a lot of questions about it. But I did do an NFP postpartum that I highly recommend. Overall, if I had to recommend one type of NFP that it clicked with me, it's the Marquette method. I will link down below. I think I can link my instructor because she does everything over the computer, and I did it postpartum and it was very, very good and accurate and helped me. The only thing about Marquette that's hard is that it's financially expensive. So it is accurate, but it's very hard financially. So that's why I came up with my own method, because I didn't have the money to keep up with the Marquette. And anyway, so I will do a whole video on that, I promise. All right, the next question is, I made the decision on getting a tubal after my last pregnancy. A part of me regrets it because I know it goes against the church teaching, which is true. If you get a vasectomy, a man gets a vasectomy, or women get their tubes tied, that is against the Catholic Church. Because we always want to be open to God and God's will. Okay, so what I would say to this is, there is a lady that is friends with my mom, and she got her tubes tied before she had her conversion. And so she ended up, you know, having 2 children, got her tubes tied, she wasn't married, and then years later she got married. And so her and her husband, you don't have to do this, but her and her husband decided to still do NFP and to still be chaste in the times where she would have kind of, you know, become pregnant type of thing. And for me, that just kind of really, because she felt so guilty, and so she felt really bad that this had happened and stuff, and so she wanted to do that to honor God as kind of a, I'm so sorry, like I didn't know it was wrong and I feel bad, because the way that she kind of looked at it was, this is what I would have done if I hadn't had you know, my tubes tied, you know. And her husband was sad because he wanted children, and the circumstances were different, you know, and I'm sure that she would have wanted children too and stuff. So anyway, that's an idea. I know I've had a lot of people over the years talk about this, how they just feel really, really bad that they did that. So I mean, that's an idea to do if you and your husband would want to do that, almost as like a sacrifice type of thing. Okay, here's the next question. How do you change up your quiet time routine in different seasons? I'm struggling with morning sickness now, and I can't get up at my usual time to read. Amen, sister. I am with you 100%. You know, our body, especially when we are pregnant or we're nursing, we have those little babies, I feel like everything is out of whack, and I think that God knows that it is a huge sacrifice that we're kind of giving over our body, and, you know, to have a little baby for him. So I think that there are definitely some extra graces, you know, like that he understands. But I mean, we still have to pray and stuff like that, but I think that God totally understands. Like, I'm the same way. I used to get up at 5 in the morning, do my prayer before all the kids woke up and all of this, and now I can barely get out of bed. I'm just so exhausted. So I think at different stage in our life, we just need to have like grace with ourselves, you know, and not be so hard on ourselves. Still pray, obviously. And, you know, I am laying on the couch a lot of time and just like, you know, we can sacrifice those things and offer those up, and God really truly does love those little sacrifices, like with morning sickness and stuff. So just, we can be holy in other ways as well, you know, just keep that in mind. So that's what I would say. Just give yourself a lot of grace. You know what you can handle and what you can't handle, and listen to your body, because you are doing something awesome for God right now, like being a vessel so that his children can come alive, you know. And same with little babies. They're so needy that it's exhausting. So give yourself a lot of grace and just do the best you can. I think we all know what that is, you know, what those limits are. Okay, the next question is, any marriage tips? I've been married for 2 years now, have 1 baby. It's tough. I do love my husband. I watch your YouTube videos and you've helped me to be a better wife, but sometimes I feel like I'm not cut out for it. I think all of us feel that way sometimes. Like, I remember, especially, I feel like after your first, for me it was my second, where it was like my breaking point, where I actually, this is very vulnerable, but I've never wanted a divorce except for after we had our second child, and I would never get a divorce. I knew that the day I married Eric, but it really brings out almost your selfishness a lot of the time, because you're both so exhausted. You know, your husband might be working all day and you might have been with the baby all day and you just want a break. Your husband's exhausted, wants a break, you know, and it's hard. It is very, very hard, especially the first year, the first couple years. Like, once the kids sleep through the night, I feel like every single child, it has gotten better. But like I said, like, I was like, if I won't get a divorce, but if I did, this would be the time, you know. And I just remember just not having nice thoughts about my husband, like thinking of all his selfishness and all of that. And you just have to truly pray it out, because Satan really wants to divide you and your husband. And I knew going into marriage that divorce was never an answer, and I'm really glad that I did. And I didn't always feel that way, actually. Like, I felt like, because I come from a divorced family, and I thought that divorce was an option. Like, my mom was a devout Catholic. She had divorced my dad, and I just, it wasn't until I dated somebody and he was like, divorce is never okay in the Catholic Church, you know, like, obviously there's annulment and stuff. That's a whole nother video. But I think knowing that my husband would never divorce me, knowing that I would never divorce him, you just have to work at it, and you have to, you know, just constantly ask for forgiveness, humble yourself, and just, like, you know, love your spouse. Love is a choice. There are times where it's hard, and I'm sure my husband has a hard time, you know, at times too, like, and you just have to truly say, God, I love you, and I love my husband, and help us, you know, and call upon Saint Joseph. He is awesome for helping people. But those rough patches in marriage, for us, it's always been around the children. Like, they're just so needy, and it's so hard. I feel like now it's much better, like we found a rhythm, but that was like, you know, baby 3 and 4 that we found that rhythm. But it's still hard. It's still, like, very sacrificial. And I think it's really important in marriage just to continue to love your spouse, even in those times where you're not feeling it, you know, like, just love them, honor them, do the best that you can, is what I would say. And as always, call upon the Lord, like when you are feeling it, or, you know, you're having thoughts that are less than holy, you know, about your spouse. Okay, so the next one is, do you have any advice for moms who struggle with anger? I always say, like, if you're struggling with anxiety, like you're anxious around your kids, you have anger, all of that, my go-to is the rosary. And there are days that I don't pray the rosary and I feel it. I can feel that I don't have the grace that I normally do. I've heard of, like, my friend Laura from What Laura Likes, she did a 54-day rosary novena for meekness, and I thought that was so cool. Like, so definitely, like, don't forget to pray for yourself, because we need help. You know, it's good to pray for other people, but don't be shy about praying to God for ourselves to be a better mother, to, you know, help our children, to have the grace. But hands down, for me, it's always been the rosary, where I can tell if I have more grace in a day than not. So I recommend praying the rosary. Okay, so the next one is I'm a new stay-at-home mom, still adjusting and learning a lot. I have an 8-month-old and I'm currently 12 weeks pregnant. My kiddos will be 14 months apart. Any advice would be wonderful. So I totally feel like I get you. My 2 oldest are 15 months apart, so very similar, and didn't know I was pregnant with my second one till like 11 weeks, which is crazy, because I didn't have any morning sickness, no signs. I didn't even get my cycle back, so that's why I didn't know that I was pregnant. I'm surprised I took a pregnancy test now that I think about it. But yeah, I would say this was the best advice somebody gave to me, was when you have your baby, you know, when both your children want you, because they both will, like, it's kind of a given, always attend to the older one first, because they will remember, and you don't want them to be upset that they have a new baby in their life. If that makes sense. That was advice that somebody gave me, and for me it was the best advice. So whenever Jacob and Thomas would be crying or wanting me, I'd always attend Thomas first. Obviously if Eric was there or somebody else, like, we'd both grab a child, and I would always get Thomas if he wanted me, and then, you know, Eric would get Jacob. But that seemed to really help, because he never got jealous of the baby or anything like that. The other thing that really all of my children, I've always trusted them, was to be excited for the baby, you know, like to be excited, like, oh, look it, isn't Bella so cute? You know, Zachary, isn't she so cute? She loves you so much, Zachary. Like, just those little things, I think, help children so much. Like, when they see the connect of, like, oh, this isn't my competition, this is my love. Like, I get to love this little baby, and they're gonna be my friend, and all of that. Also, another piece of advice, when they're so little, never leave them in the room by themselves with each other, you know, like, because that's what my doctor said to me. He's like, never, because the older one might do something to the younger one without, like, you know, you even thinking about it. So, like, there might be times you need to take a shower, they're, you know, one's asleep and one's awake. Like, I'd always take a shower when Thomas, the oldest, was asleep, and, you know, Jacob, I'd put him in the little bouncy chair right outside the shower and stuff. So, and oh my goodness, it's all coming back to me. But you just gotta figure those things out, but never leave them in the room without you, pretty much. So you're gonna be fine. It's gonna be probably a hard first year or 2, but then it's totally gonna pay off. They're gonna be best friends. Like, Thomas and Jacob play together so well, and Zach and Bella, they're pretty close too. They play together. So it's hard at first, but I promise it pays off. It's so amazing. Okay, and so I think that's all of, like, the motherhood, fertility questions that I have, like family questions, marriage. So I'm gonna do another video on all the other topics. So this one is more like motherhood, marriage type of thing. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you all have a beautiful, beautiful day. And until next time, I will see you all later. God bless. Bye.